What's going on, YouTube? Claic Yuzolt back again with another Final Fantasy Brave Exvius video, and in today's video we're talking all about PG Lasswell, the Neo Vision Awakened version of him, and how strong it actually is, because he's actually the second strongest Neo Vision Awakened unit under Tifa, if you're okay with ice chaining damage. Let's get into it. Alright guys, talking about PG Lasswell here, NVA PG Lasswell. He's going to be one of the better Neo Vision Awakened units that we're going to get our hands on. He is a great damage dealing chaining unit that also has the ability to LB finish, which again, we're just seeing as a normal thing here for Neo Vision. They love that. They love to have you buffing up that LB. However, he will only be able to pop off a big, strong, like super strong LB once because of the way his abilities work. His LB booster he can only use once per battle. His LB still does 130 times modifier in his Brave Shifted form, so it's not nothing to you know, not be excited about, but that extra boost there when he boosts up his own LB damage will make it even more powerful. He will be locked to Ice Element when we're talking about his Brave Shifted form, mostly because his abilities that he does on that side says Ice physical damage. So it's not going to be about him being imbued or anything like that. The abilities actually just do Ice damage. That's not to say you can't use this Lasswell in other ways, because his highest modifier in his kit is going to be on his normal side, besides his LB. And it's going to be normal, so it's not going to have any element attached to it, and it's going to imperil fire and ice by 120%, and you can just spam that ability and be fine. You can chain that ability, and he's actually going to be able to do pretty good damage. Looking at both sides of PG Lasswell here when he's NVA'd, you're going to be doing true dual wield, and you're going to want a katana and a great sword to maximize what you have stat-wise on both sides. They're going to have 100% true dual wield on both sides as long as he's enhanced, and you're going to be looking to just buff that up to another 100% for the 200%. The killer abilities on PG Lasswell here are restricted to Dragon Killer. He has 150% Dragon Killer on both sides, and he is also, as you can see, resist to Paralyze, Confuse, Petrify, which is what we want, on both sides without any equipment, which makes it really, really strong. You can see that he does get a boost up to his elemental resistances here on his Neo Vision Awakened Brave Shifted form, which is great, you know, for building him up to be resist in these fights that we really need him. Other than that, the only thing he's bringing support-wise besides damage to your team, in my opinion, that you will actually be using quite often is going to be the 120 imperil to fire and ice that he will have when you Neo Vision Awaken him on his normal side. That'll be a normal ability that you guys will see here that he can use. And it's going to be quite useful. I mean, there's a lot of units out there that's going to be Blade Flash Revelation, which is going to be his big hitting ability that you guys will use when you're in his normal form for most of it. And remember, because we're talking about a normal formed or Neo Vision Awakened unit instead of just a flat out base Neo Vision, we are going to have to deal with some weird times with his Brave Shift and being able to change into it and having to revert back. And this is an ability you want to max out. It's going to be very good. It says 100 right now, but when you max this bad boy out, it's a 120. Which is great because he could be an enabler for a lot of your damage dealers if you want to go either ice or fire. So without further ado, like I said, when it comes to building them, you want to go true dual wield with a great sword and a katana. Other than that, the only restriction I would have, because you're going to go killers, max attack, everything you can. On his Brave Shifted form, if you really want that LB to be hitting hard, because of the use of Hellstorm Edge here, where you get LB boost damage up 150%, but you can only use it one time, you're going to put some LB damage on him, and he'll be able to do a lot of damage with that big hitting 130 times modifier LB. If you want to just skip over that, you just want to make it easy, true dual wield, killers for whatever you're fighting, and maximum attack, and he'll be able to get the job done. And like I said, on this side, a lot of it deal ice damage. A lot of his stuff is with just dealing straight ice damage. So let's roll into his rotation so you guys can see how it works. It's very, very simple and nothing to worry about. So heading into the training dummy to show off PG Lasswell in action, we on the left here, as you guys have grown accustomed to, we do have the rotation, which is just an example rotation to get you guys started in using him and using his best abilities, and what I think is a pretty good damage dealing rotation. If you see Brave Shift above the turn, that means make sure you're in Brave Shifted form, or those abilities won't be showing up for you. The first thing off the bat I want to say about Pyro Glacial Lasswell is it's going to be a bit different than what we've been dealing with other units that have, you know, in V. that have recently come out. A lot of them have been the Stardust Ray chaining family, as opposed to what PG Lasswell has, and that is going to be AMOE, Absolute Mirror of Equity. Now, there's nothing wrong with that chaining family. I think it's fine. I think it's easy to chain, just like Stardust Ray family is. However, you know, when you're trying to mix and match your teams up, if you're trying to use Lasswell in there, it may become a problem trying to get the best chain that you can, spark chaining and line it up perfectly, besides having a partner that is, you know, Lasswell here. So in the first turn, we are going to be using Blade Flash Revelation. That is going to give us an Imperil, and then also give us is 120% to Fire and Ice, and it's also going to be a 98 times modifier ability once maxed out. This thing will hit very, very hard, very, very strong. We're going to be triple casting it on turn 1. Now, we're not imbuing or anything. I know we're only imperiling, and you're like, hey, Claic, we really should be imbuing for that nice elemental damage, or have an ice elemental in his hand, and that's perfectly fine. If you want to put ice in his hand to make sure you're taking advantage of this, that's cool, but his other abilities in his Brave Shifted form are going to have ice already attached to them, and we'll see that in a minute, and we can imbue as well, which I think is okay if you think the fight will go on for a really, really long time. So we're just going to go ahead and triple cast Blade Flash Revelation again, because it is hitting so hard with that 98 times mod. And now we have finally made it into his Brave Shifted form. So you're going to go ahead and Brave Shift over. And the first ability you're going to triple cast is going to be his Complete Awakening Pyro Glacial, which is going to boost up his attack and restore MP. So this is going to be that ability that everybody has, you know, where you're just going to boost up your attack. It's going to be great. If you can somehow boost up his attack from somebody else higher than this, go ahead and do it. You can skip over this to do more damage. After you cast Complete Awakening Pyro Glacial, you're going to move over to Fatal Bloom. Fatal Bloom is going to be his go-to damage dealing for the most damage chaining on his Brave Shifted form. Okay, so this is going to be what you go with. You do have Burning Soul Edge, which will do some damage and put up his own LB, so if you want to be spamming that LB, 130 times mod, and you can't get it from your Fatal Bloom stuff, you can kind of force it with this ability here. We do have Hellstorm Edge, which we'll use in a minute, and then if you also want to imbue, right, so if you want to make sure that you have that ice element attached to you, when you end up having to go back into your normal form and you use that 98 times mod Blade Flash Revelation we just used, you can go ahead and imbue with an ability called Mirror of Equity, Ice Fog, and that's right here that I'm pointing over right now. You can just fit that into wherever you see Fatal Bloom into this rotation. That way you have that imbue and you're good to go. But you can see the Dill Ice damage, this up here is his LB, Dill Ice damage. So, you know, he kind of has that attached to him, and that's going to hold him back a bit when trying to make teams. He has to be in ice, right? Unless, put in quotation marks, unless you don't Brave Shift him, and you just kind of deal with him with his 98 times mod in his normal form with Blade Flash Revelation, which really wouldn't be that bad. But, you know, this side of the box, this side of his form is going to be all about ice. So, again, I'm going to go with Fatal Bloom here. And then we're just going to go cast another Fatal Bloom. So we're going to boost up our attack and chain it up all nice. And get everything done that we need to here on turn 3. Now on turn 4, you're just going to double cast Fatal Bloom into Hellstorm Edge. Now Hellstorm Edge, deal ice damage to one enemy. Again, ice damage. It's going to be a big hit right here. You can only use it once per battle though. And then it's going to boost up your LB damage by 150% to caster. So that 130 times modifier is also getting boosted up by this. So double Fatal Bloom into Hellstorm Edge is what your guys are going to cast. It's going to be all great. You can see that he kind of buffed himself up there with the ice. And then you're just going to let loose the demons of the ice with his LB here, which is fantastic. Looks pretty cool. And it actually is going to do a lot of damage. That LB is pretty sweet. Then he's going to go ahead and switch back into his normal form. So this is where, like, if you're going to continue the fight and it's going to keep going, obviously we're not going to be able to go back and use that one-time ability again. So for the rotation going forward, I think you're still just going to spam as many of these Blade Flash Revelations as you can. Up to you how you want to continue from here. I think you should have imbued in the last turn if you think the boss was going to live, because again, right now in FFBE, a lot of these bosses are dying off to these Envy Awakened units and to these Envy units pretty quickly. You just want to spam the crap out of this move. 98 times modifier, 120 imperil for your team. Very, very strong. And you can switch back into the other form and use his LB if you built him in LB form. If you didn't, I kind of just feel like sicking in this form forever and just spamming this bad boy because it's really, really strong. But that's pretty much his rotation. And as you can see, extremely simple and not hard to follow at all. And he's really easy to build, and he just does a lot of damage. I don't want that to go over your head, guys. Like, this guy actually can produce a lot for you. If you're not used to this NV damage, you're going to be surprised by how much he can do. So let's finish off this video talking about his NV awakening abilities you guys need to awaken, and then we'll close out the video. Alright guys, so talking about his Brave abilities and which one you guys should level up. First and foremost, Blade Flash Revelation is going to be your go-to. Get that imperil up to 120%. Get that modifier up to 98 times. Gonna work wonders for you. Gonna be amazing. Burning Soul Edge, I wouldn't even worry about it too much. He already has in his kit so much LB per turn. You don't really need to be casting the abilities that give you LB gauge, and it's going to be less damage than this move here. Invested Training, none of the abilities are in the rotation, or none of them are going to be useful to you, in my opinion. The boost to MP may be important, so out of these three, obviously focused on the Revelation here. Moving on over to his other side, we do have Fatal Bloom, so that's going to be his Revelation on this side. Not as much damage, but it is the one you're going to be using on this side, so make sure you level that bad boy up. Burning Soul Edge, again, we're going to be skipping that. And last but not least, make sure you level up Star Guide, because it is going to boost up your attack and your LB gauge fill every turn, like I talked about, making it sure that we have his LB for when you want to spam that 130 times mod. And I think this attack goes up to 100% boosted attack, which is definitely what you guys want when using Lasswell. Now, before we get out of here, I do need to mention something I said earlier. I said that he really just brings that imperil. That is not entirely true. Lasswell also brings on this ability here that he can cast a few times in battle, the Mirror of Equity Totality. This move can reduce defense by 80%. So while he can imperil by fire and ice by 120%, I do need to mention that he can also reduce defense, and it does a lot of damage on this ability. So if you find yourself without a break, or you know, sometimes it's weird when you're building teams, you don't have room for a breaker, and you really just want to break that defense to do as much damage as you can. This is an option here because he can break by 80%, which is really, really high. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware of that. It really helps his kit out, and I should have mentioned that earlier. But overall, again, PG Lasswell, amazing unit. Seriously, guys. You're going to have a lot of fun using him. You're going to feel the power that he has behind him. Super easy to build, super easy to use. And I hope you guys enjoy using him, and I hope this guide was a little bit helpful to you. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment down below if you're using PG Lasswell, or if you're using Axstar, or in a couple of weeks, you're waiting on that Elena and that Yoshi Kitty. Subscribe for future content. Follow me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Claic Yuzolt, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.